Hello everyone, welcome to the new live session. And this is the session where I invite people to talk about different topics in software and tech industry. I'm Can Dost, your host today, and we will talk about being a working student and its challenges. My guest is Oksana. Oksana is from Ukraine and currently living in Berlin. I met with Oksana via one of my friends, and Oksana works as a working student iOS engineer and studies computer science at the same time. So, welcome Oksana. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you? How are things in Hamburg?
So everything is cool. Thank you. Nice. It's lockdown. Regular things in Europe, let's say. And could you tell us a bit about yourself? So, what do you do in Berlin? Where do you work? Where do you study?
I study at HTW, University of Applied Sciences. My major is international media and computing, so it's like a big mix of media stuff and design, like 3D design and stuff like that, and computer engineering. And I work at Bonial. It's a kind of like a brochure thing company for been there for about 4 years. Started as a QA in the company, and now I'm a working student iOS developer.
Okay, so you are from Ukraine, but you're studying and working and living in Berlin. How did this happen, the move? Can you tell us a bit about your story?
Yeah, I was studying in Ukraine after high school. I was studying to be a interpreter, English and German interpretation. And when I was in my third year, my brother moved to Germany, and they wanted to have a nanny for their kids. And he offered me opportunity to come to Germany and be like an au pair, if you know this program.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you come into a family and you live with them, they pay for your German classes so you can learn the language, and you take care of the kids. So we kind of did that kind of unofficially. So I came here on a language course visa, and my brother paid for the courses, and I was taking care of the kids for the school and everything. And after some time, I started a job and a university after learning German.
You know German, English, and Ukrainian at the moment, right?
And Russian.
And Russian, yeah.
And I'm currently taking Japanese classes.
Wow, how do you do that?
Actually, my university requires that we have like C1 level of English, even like C2. They push really hard because it's like international media and stuff. So, and then they also push you to take another language. So apart from knowing German to study this, I had to study more English at university and another language. So Japanese seemed like the why not choice.
Okay, so now I understand. So you are working as a working student, right? It's an official kind of title in Germany. And what is the difference between internship and working student?
As far as I know, internship is something you do full time, and either in the middle of your studies or after them. And working student is while you're studying. So you're not allowed to work more than 20 hours per week as a working student.
So it's limited by legal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me, it's also limited by my visa because it's a student visa. I cannot, There's like a specific amount of days or hours, I think, for a year that I'm allowed to work. And that corresponds to 20 hours per week and 40 hours for a semester break.
Okay, so in semester break, you can work 40 hours per week, like full time.
Yeah. Really sorry about the noise.
No worries, it's okay. But should the work, like the job that you are doing, should this be related to your field, or can you work in anything?
It can be anything. Most people do like stuff either at university. There's like positions helping out in labs and stuff like that. A lot of people just work as waiters at restaurants. Anything else. I have a friend who's working in the S-Bahn on the stations, like those people who make sure everything's okay on the station, like walk around and watch you.
This like the security thing is kind of?
exactly.
So you can work as a security guard even in that
You
case.
can work as a security person on an S-Bahn station. Yeah.
Okay, it's like in underground and it's also train stations. Interesting. I didn't know that. I always thought you can do the work only related to your field, because I remember we had some working students in our company and they were studying related things most of the time. That's what I was expecting.
I mean, it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
a really good idea to work in the same field that you're studying, because then you already have some experience once you graduate. But it's not always like a very available option for some people. And yeah, people just look for whatever's available because everybody needs money. But that's also you have to find a job to your in your field after you graduate. At least if you're here on a visa, then you have like after you graduate like 3 months or 6 months or something to find a job in the field that you graduated from. Otherwise, you cannot stay.
Okay, so if you are a graduate from computer science, in this case, you have to work like as a software engineer or anything related to computer science.
Exactly.
So, okay. So how is this visa process? I mean, you said you came here as an au pair, and but you said it's is it like, I know the program, I don't know the details, but how this visa work? Because I know from Ukraine, Ukraine is not in the EU and
No.
have this similar. Maybe I don't know the real difference between Turkey and Ukraine, but I'm considering that it's in the eyes of EU, it's third world country. So how this visa process happens? So which type of visa you have, what they require you to have in general, like.
As, like when I came here was 6 years ago. It was I think a bit more difficult than now, because right now Ukraine has like better relationship with the EU, and I think it might be a bit easier. But the visa that I had was for language courses, and you have to be enrolled in a language course. Has to be full-time language courses, and you have to have the main thing is proof of financing. So either you have a large sum of money on a bank account, or you have a person who is residing in Germany vouch for you, kind of like give a statement that they have money and they will support you financially. So these are like the main things. Like you have to have, it's kind of the same if you're going for courses or already for university. You have to have a place to study, you have to be able to pay for it, and you have to have financial support. So either you have enough cash on your bank account or somebody can vouch for you.
Yeah, but the au pair program is a bit different, I just guess. Is it? Do you know? Do you have an idea?
I think it's very similar. Like you don't need the financial thing, I think, because you live with the family. Like if you come here as an au pair, you have to, I think, pretty much just apply and some sort of, just find a family. Everything else is pretty much easy.
Yeah, if you don't have the money, then that's
the family supports you. They're obligated to give you pocket money every week, so you can have food and stuff like that. And they are obligated to give you a place to live, and they pay for your language courses.
Yeah, because I know that it is a common problem to find, let's say, nanny in Europe. And there are really less people because the population is very old. And then the general problem is related to that one. That's why I think this program exists, to at least allow people to help them with the kids.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a lot cheaper, I think, to support somebody coming here than it would be to hire like a nanny here. Because then I think you pay a lot more taxes. But this way it's a lot less, because you're kind of like doing a good thing for somebody.
Yeah. Okay. How did you find the job? So can you tell us a bit about like how was the hiring process, or maybe direct application process? Let's start with that one, because that's where most people just eliminate it, right?
I think my first job in the area was actually like not anything official. It was something that I did via my brother, because he had some companies in Ukraine and some things he was doing. He's also a computer engineer. I just blanked on the word completely. Software engineer. And he like had these small jobs for me to do from time to time, like for a little cash. Like I don't know, make this web page for us. We'll pay you like 20 euros or something. And after that, I had some stuff to put on my CV, just like smaller stuff, but you can make it look a little prettier. And I got my job actually. My brother recommended me because there was a position in his company for QA, and they were specifically looking for student QAs because they just wanted to pay the minimum amount to have a student for manual testing.
Manual testing. Okay.
Yeah. So there is like opportunities to grow further, but you start off as a student, they give you a minimum wage, and they just, because they need just testers for, there was like a kind of like a startup project inside of a bigger company.
Yeah.
So they really needed manual testers at that point. And there was another working student already working for the team, but that was not enough. So they were looking, and my brother just recommended me, and I already had some QA experience as well for like a little side job. So I just prepared myself really well. I was really nervous, and I remember like reading articles for days. I was reading articles, what is this to be QA? What are test plans? What are test runs? Like anything you could possibly read. I was trying to memorize every term, and I was kind of a bit stupid because they're expecting a QA. They're not a working student. They don't want you to have much experience because they want to pay you minimum wage. So you actually shouldn't prepare yourself too much or like try to sound too smart, because they will see right through you if you just read this from an article the night before. So I think it just, I was preparing myself really, really hard, and it actually went much better than I expected. It was just a few people. We sit down in a meeting room, and they were like, so tell us about yourself. I'm like, wait, what? I was prepared to talk about test plans. Like, tell us about yourself. And it was actually a very chill environment. And I think before when I walked into the company, I was like shaking because I was so worried. But it went really smoothly, really nicely. And I think at the very end, I was already like more relaxed. The guy who was the other working student QA in the team, he came up to me and said, wow, I'm really impressed. You having more experience and more knowledge about this than I was when I started here. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm good.
So how did this switch happen, from QA to IES then? I
kind of got bored from manual testing.
That was all? I mean...
No, I mean, I tried to go, it felt like the way to go was automation. Yeah. And there was nobody in my team who could teach me about that. So I kind of looked in the company, and I reached out to some other QA engineers, some senior people, and there was like, they tried to explain some things to me, but there was never like any sort of like mentorship or anything established, and there was no way to work on a regular basis with them and like bring that knowledge into my team, because I had no knowledge, and like it was coming really slowly. And I wanted to do something more. I felt bored and unchallenged, so I just straight up said to my team, hey guys, I want to do some coding. Can anybody help me? And the iOS team was more, I guess, and also my brother was part of the iOS team. So he was like, let's stay after, like he stayed with me after my working hours and his working hours and showed me some stuff. And we started with unit testing. So he showed me a bit of Swift and how Xcode works and stuff like that. And I started writing unit tests, and I was so into it. I was really working, like, instead of 20 hours, I would stay more unpaid. I was like staying there for 30 hours, and I was learning things. I was trying to learn. And after a while, it was kind of funny because the iOS guys would just come to me saying, hey, test this new feature. And if you find any bugs, fix them.
So it's just everything left on your shoulders, they say.
Pretty much. I loved it. I was into it. I was like, oh yeah, give me. I'm here. I'll do it.
That's a good strategy. I will keep this strategy in mind for myself. If we hire working students, I will just say, okay, test this one, and then if you find it, then it's yours.
It's a really good strategy because, you just motivate them really great amount to stay and work on these things because they get to learn. Well,
Yeah, true, exactly. But I have like these are the good sides. So what we are talking. What about the challenges, like the problems that you have faced?
um, I would say like there are smaller things like first of all, like nobody is motivated to transfer you from a QA role if there's manual testing needed to be done in the team and you were hired specifically for that purpose. They're not really motivated to let you do something else. You have to really kind of convince them. This kind of thing, there were fortunately some people who were really supportive about this, and there were also some people who were really not, who were just like, no, we don't need this. And I experienced a really like negative thing was there was a team lead change in my team, and the new person didn't want to have the kind of QA kind of developer, so they kind of just forced me either to choose either one, and if I want to be a developer, they don't have a position for me. So yeah, but there were other people who supported me, and I ended up switching teams and staying in the company. But this is the part that's really difficult. If you want to, as a student, you want to grow and you want to develop and you want to learn something. Like if you start as a manual tester, you want to grow to something else. You cannot stay a manual tester for years. It's very boring. And that's the challenging part, is trying to grow in the same company and looking for opportunities. And either it is automation or switching to development. It's really difficult to find support for that. And also at the point where you already have some experience and you can do some things, you sometimes, a lot of the time, you need to convince the others that you can.
I was expecting this to be harder part, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, also it kind of relates to the other point, because you have to convince them that, okay, I'm a developer now, I can do this. But then also when you're already a developer, you have to, like, whenever a girl who's a student walks into a meeting, they kind of expect you to be the QA or the designer. And nobody really takes you seriously unless you can really like convince them or be really aggressive. And I've seen, like, I've kind of looked at other women in the company, how they approach this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people be really aggressive or kind of like even bitchy to get their point across. Mm-hmm. And there's some women in the company who are actually like so really strong that some people are afraid of them. Like, so they really, when they walk into a room, some guys get really, what's going to happen? So that's kind of where I strive to go, but I don't want to get it, like, do it in a very bitchy way. So there's like, it takes time and it takes a lot of like, personal talks with, just trying to show people, hey, I can do this. And if somebody's like, oh, wait, no, let somebody else do it. I'm like, no, I really want to. And you have to stay the more time at work and maybe work some additional hours and put in some more effort.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I last week we talked with Yasemin about the gender discrimination of women in tech, and it was one of the points that women generally has to prove themselves in these kind of meetings that they can do it, they can do the job. Sadly, they have to. And I cannot imagine, in being as a also student at the time, it must be very hard. And I know in my current company we had working students, I think 5 working students. But what I realized that they were always paired programming all the time, and because
with each other or with seniors?
No, we had like. One of them was pairing all the time with one developer, and that developer was, I think, 15 years experience. Oh. So it was really senior. And they did this. And also what they did is they changed the teams all the time, the working students. So they get to work with different teams, different people, and etc. I think this helped for the students in this case. And one of them was women, and then I realized that also there is like we work together with her too, and there is literally nothing. Yeah, I mean, nothing. There is no discrimination against her. So when you lift up people, or let's say not lift, but like help or hear them, that's generally enough, because they can do everything. So there is
Yeah.
no limit. There is no limit.
I mean, I definitely agree that that's really useful to let the students like go from team to team and see what they like. Because if you start, like when you start studying, you just generally study the very basics and everything super general. You have no idea where exactly to go.
Yeah.
And if you get to experience that, that is super valuable. And right now, like we went, the other working student that I started with in the same team, we went completely different ways. Like I'm in the iOS and the mobile team right now, and he's in data engineering. Like we went and it's like super fun. He also got to try different stuff, and I think it's great.
Did you have one like great mentor? Did you have any?
I would say even a few. Like as far as mentors go, I definitely still have one, I think. I've had like both really positive and really negative experience with this. And I think it's really great when there's a person who's a senior who looks at a student not like I don't know, oh, they can just do like the dirty work or something, but they really look to teach. Like you can really sense this kind of attitude when you ask a question and they just, they answer your question and they kind of like give you the opportunity to ask more, or I don't know, give you the opportunity to ask even a stupider question and not make you feel like this is a stupid question or like you should know this, because as a student you probably don't know that much.
Yeah, no idea.
Exactly. And I've had an experience with people who are like really supportive, and like with some people I feel like I can ask any sort of stupid question and I would not feel like it was stupid, even though for them it's probably like, oh, how can she not know this? And I've also had experience with somebody who'd be like, use me kind of like as a way to boost their ego, would be like, sit down and let me talk, let me explain how it works. And that is very annoying, because like if the question is very direct, like how do you, create a variable in Swift or something like that, super stupid, super basic. Okay, here, let me show you, this is how you do it. Done. Less than a minute. But there's always this one person who kind of goes, so Swift, what is Swift? Let's talk about it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, it happens, and you kind of have to suffer through it, but not also kind of be nice about it, because you cannot just tell them, hey, dude, because they're, have been there in the company for years and they're way above you, and like try not let it get to you. At the same time, kind of react in a chill way. It takes some practice.
So do you have any recommendation, or like in general recommendation for people who has mentors? Maybe they have a bad mentor. I generally tend to think that this is both ways. So it's same as being an employee and talking with your manager. Sometimes you have to manage the manager, and sometimes you have to manage your mentor. I assume, I have no idea, if you have any experience, how would you navigate them, maybe manage them, your mentors? Did you try anything?
I mean, my way of going about this was mostly if I have an opportunity to go to somebody else with a question, because there was never like a specifically assigned person who would be taking care of me. There was always like I can go to anybody in the team. It was just more relevant for a specific person according to a task or a project. But if you have like a specifically assigned person, I don't think the aggressive way would work in this kind of situation, because you still need them. Mm-hmm. And you need them to, want to tell you things. And if you're aggressive with them and like, hey, dude, you're telling me too much, they will not want to teach you things. So I think it would help setting a clear way, setting your question in a very clear way, so that they don't go into something like a rant about something else. So you have to be very specific about what you ask, mm-hmm. and what you need from them. I think that's the basis, and like maybe putting a boundary on the relationship so that it doesn't go into like too friendly, because when it gets too friendly, you cannot really, I don't know, ask specific things from the person, because when they get friendly, they get talkative, and it just it goes into something, you're there 20 hours, you want to maximize your time, that you want to learn something. You can stay after work and then you can chat, but if the person who's there 40 hours, they have time to chat in between their work. They don't have to get things done to prove themselves to the rest of the team. Yeah. So it helps setting like a clear boundary and setting like a clear question and like kind of making sure they know what their relationship is and what you want from them. And like also if it's kind of like a person with a huge ego who wants to tell you things kind of like, I'm so cool, I'm so senior, and you're like a little person, then it actually kind of helps to help them with their ego, because then they want to tell you, like then they want to explain more, and then they want to teach you more, and they always then react very positively when you come up with a question. So you just kind of go, oh my God, that was so helpful. I thank you so much every time. And they're like, cool.
That's really nice strategy, to be honest. It's like helping them with their ego. I will think about it, because I think it can be useful for anyone who has a manager with a high ego. So it's useful. That's nice. That's really nice. Okay, so I want to also ask about the salary stuff. So since everyone is also curious about the salary, because that's what we get, whatever you do, you get. Is it different, the salary? You said you're working per 20 hours per week. How the calculation is different? You work as an intern as well. Did you get money as an intern? How the differences are in the salary?
So as a working student, basically the approach, I think salary-wise approach for most companies is when they're looking for a student specifically, they're not looking for somebody with experience, and they're looking to pay you the least amount possible, because they just want somebody to be motivated quite a lot and do a lot of the work that nobody else wants to do. So that is like the very basis when you start. And as far as I know, the minimum wage in Germany is around €9 per hour. We tend to, as working students, you tend to calculate salary per hour, because we don't have like a clear yearly salary, because it changes according to how much you work during your semester break. I started off as €10 per hour. That was the company's normal kind of their established salary for students that they have for the whole company. So it wasn't something specific, and I didn't even think about negotiating anything at that point, because it was like, we hire you, we'll give you €10 per hour. And I was like, cool. It was definitely like, it was more than nothing. So it was first job, first real job. So I was really excited. Sorry.
No, you're gone.
It gets more difficult with time, because after some time with more experience, you want to get more money. But there's still like a huge factor of you're still a student, so they're not going to give you that much more. So you have to like go into the negotiations quite like prepared and with a lot of points and stuff. Currently, I get €18 per hour, and that is after 4 years.
Wow, but you doubled almost.
Yeah, which is nice, but also like it's 4 years.
Yeah, I know, but no one doubles the salary in 4 years that much, especially in Europe. Like when you look at it's still less, I agree. It is the per hour rate is really low, but at the same time, doubling salary in 4 years is achievement, isn't it?
I look at it quite positively. What I wanted to say is, I think as a student, that negotiating is the hard part, because most companies have like a limit of what they will give you as a working student. And they don't really look at you like as a very valuable resource. And they would be happy, I think, to trade you for another working student. So like trying to sell yourself is kind of difficult. But yeah, you just look for your selling points, which for me, for example, was just the fact that I've been in the company for a while. I know the project really well. So that was like look at me, I have so much experience and I know the project really well, so I can be really valuable. You don't need to like onboard me or anything else like that.
I'm thinking about your visa. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
Like, so if can you leave now with your working student and then find another regular job or not?
What do you mean leave?
Like you say, okay, now I don't want to work as a working student with official title, but I want to work as a part-time, like regular part-time, you know, with a
Um,
higher, like you have 4 years experience in iOS right now, right?
mhm.
Or in the company, let's say. And you want to change from working student to work as a part-time employee.
I don't think that's possible as a student. The companies, I think it has something to do with taxes for Germany specifically, because usually if you're like a part-time or a full-time person, worker, then the company pays taxes, like part of your taxes or something like that, as far
Yeah.
as I know. And as a working students, they don't. So the thing is, you actually, as a working student, it's better to be a working student than it is to be part-time because you pay less taxes.
Okay, so
And I'm not sure if it's like these are the only things I know about this, but I'm not sure if there's actually like a legal. I'm not sure if there's like any law like preventing you to going to part time. For me, at least, I think my visa might prevent me to do so.
that's my question actually.
Yeah, I think.
But visa is limited to 20 hours per week, like working hours, right?
Yeah. You know what? Now that I think about it, actually, when I started in the company first, I wasn't enrolled in the university yet. I was doing my pre-university 1 year course because of the difference of high school years in Ukraine and Germany. So there's a special 1 year college thing. And while I was doing that, the company didn't hire me as a working student because I wasn't a student yet. They hired me as a part-time. I was actually a part-time person for that year. So I think it's possible for my visa, maybe because of that. But yeah, it just makes more sense. I think maybe it's not possible once you're actually at a university, because
Okay.
then you're a student legally, and I think it just has to do with taxes.
Okay. So how hard is it to work and study at the same time in Germany?
I wouldn't say it's very hard. I think it depends on the workload that you take. It is actually a lot more relaxed than it is in Ukraine, for sure. I don't know how it is in Turkey exactly, but for us at universities in Ukraine, you have a specific amount of subjects you have to take in a semester. You cannot choose.
Same, similar, depending on the university, but similar.
Yeah, I guess that's much, but in Germany it's completely different because you actually get to choose how many subjects to take. So you have a specific amount of subjects for the whole bachelor's, for example, and which one of these you have to take them in a specific order, but how many you take in which semester is completely up to you. So if you want to focus at a specific time, you want to focus more on your work and you want to have more time for that, you can just take 1 or 2, 3 subjects in the semester and just work the rest of your time and take it pretty easy. But if you want to finish university really fast, that might be more tricky with your working hours.
Is there a limit? Like how many years can you be involved in the university?
As far as I know, there is no like very strict limit. I think there's more of a visa limit. Because I think after some time, if you continue being a student, I think after some time they just start asking you questions. They kind of go, "Hey, you've been a student for a while. You doing all right?"
In Turkey, I think there are like 6 years limit to finish university.
Oh, really? Wow.
I'm not sure, but they introduced some limit recently. It might be 6 or 8. If anyone of the people on chat knows, just write it down. I don't remember exactly, but there's some limits right now. Yeah,
that's interesting. I think it might be the same for Ukraine. I'm not too sure because I never graduated there. But
is it good or bad?
What?
You have never graduated in Ukraine.
I mean, I don't think my degree there would have given me any bonuses in my life. I just, at that point, I was kind of like sitting in classes, just doing nothing. And I was really bored with what I was doing. I figured I'm not going to work in this area anyways. Okay. Google Translator is replacing real translators anyways. So yeah, as soon as the opportunity presented itself, I just left university immediately.
That's nice. I have one question. If anyone is curious, I'm curious about, because how would you wish from like general, like we talked about switching teams is a good strategy, for example, but what would you wish from companies in general for working students? Like maybe specific to software, maybe not. The starting from hiring process till maybe hiring them as a full-time employee, like there's a whole big process. What would you wish until now that someone approach you differently, or how they can treat you maybe differently?
I wish it would be easier and more acceptable to try different things and kind of change positions and stuff like that. So in general, I think my experience was quite positive with the support that I got from the company. But I think it could be a bit easier, at least for some people, if you could just say, hey, I want to try this. And they would, give you that opportunity. Because I don't know, I know it's like loyalty to a company is not something specifically popular in Germany, because people tend to change jobs quite a lot. But I am at this point feeling quite loyal to the company that I work at, because they've given me a lot of opportunities. And that is, I think, something super valuable, especially for a student. And like, I'm definitely planning after finishing my studies to continue working at this company. I don't know for how long can I predict that, but I definitely feel like, I want to stay there. They give me these opportunities so far. And I feel like I've made a place for myself there, and I like these people. But I feel like it would be nice if they would be more accepted, that the student would want to try different things, like letting them change from team to team as far as much as they want is really nice. I mean, as long as people don't abuse that and just do whatever they want and like change every week. But like, it should be more accepted that you will want to do something else at a certain point, and it should be more encouraged, I think. Not just, so you're a student, are you happy? Okay, good. We're done with this feedback talk. It should be more like, so where do you see yourself in a year? How do you want to grow, and how can we assist you with that? If you want to have like a specific mentor kind of situation, how can we do that? I've recently started experiencing this in my team. There's like been kind of like an attitude change, I feel like, in the last time. And I've been getting these questions from my team lead in our last feedback sessions, was kind of like, so where do you see yourself in like half a year or something? And who of the, like, let's see at all the developers in our team, and to which direction do you want to go? And like, we can like hook you up with this person, and they will like tell you stuff, and you can work with them more closely, so you can head into that direction. And I feel like that is really amazing thing to have, because it's also really valuable to see somebody as kind of like not exactly a role model, but something along those lines, so you have somewhere to strive to. Because I think it's also kind of easy if you start off as a manual tester. It's kind of easy to just stay there. Unless you want to challenge yourself personally, you can just stay manual tester for however long, and nothing will change.
Yeah, same as the also other roles, I think, as a working student, like waitresses maybe, or bartenders. It's not really possible now, but at the moment, okay. I think what you are talking about is basically acting or behaving, like saying the company is treating you as an employee, basically, because that's what I get as an employee, saying that, okay, where do you want to grow? We talk about it with our managers and etc. We plan. If we need help, we get help. Basically, treating working student as an employee is one thing. That's all, I think. What you're saying is, that's what I understand, because and it looks like they are not always treating like this in everywhere. They're just saying students.
Yeah, sometimes it's just kind of like, cheap resource. We can do whatever we want with them. We can discard them. Doesn't matter. But I think if you invest some time into a student, they will actually be quite a valuable resource. And after like some time after they graduate, they will probably stay with you.
Yeah.
And at that point, they already know quite a bit. They already know your company pretty well. They know the project pretty well, so they can be quite valuable. I would even say more valuable than a new full-time junior or mid developer, because it'll take a while for them to onboard. You don't know if the team chemistry will work out. It's kind of like a really safe bet with a student. I feel like.
Okay, there's a question says that, do you feel like finishing university is necessary for working in Germany? Like, can you work without a university degree?
No, visa reasons.
You cannot? Really?
You cannot get a blue card in Germany without a bachelor's degree.
I remember when I applied for the blue card, I remember that they say either a university degree or an equivalent experience. I don't know what equivalent experience means.
I'm not sure about that part. I think it's a certain amount of years of working as a full-time developer, something like that would be the equivalent.
Yeah, they say
Like
in general double.
Double of what?
Like 4 years of university equals 8 years of working industry experience.
Okay.
I heard this one, but it's not official. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but I just know that I cannot switch to a blue card right now. I need a bachelor's. And I think I also know somebody who moved here for a blue card, and they actually didn't study the computer engineering, but they worked as a computer engineer for some time, definitely not 8 years at that point. And I remember that they got the visa because they had to prove for the visa that the bachelor's they have somehow relates to the field they want to work in. And literally what they had in their bachelor's was literally one subject that said computer science, and that was proof enough. So you can have pretty much a degree in anything as long as you had some time studying computer science. You can have a blue card working as an engineer here.
Okay. Okay, so I have nothing to add. Do you have anything to add, Oksana?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. I mentioned the salary topic for internship.
Yeah, that one we didn't talk. Yeah.
Because we kind of talked about comparing. So for students, it's cheap as possible. Mm-hmm. But for interns, it's very interesting because while I was in my internship, I kind of negotiated pretty well for myself because I had already some like a year and a half of experience at that time. So I could be like, so I know this much, and how much can you give me? And we had this whole negotiation thing, back and forth, everything that I talked to my coworkers before doing that. And I was like, I had people helping me with this. So there was like friends who work as developers who were saying, okay, now say this and not do that. So I had help, but you can negotiate pretty well if you have at least some experience, because if companies are looking for internship, they're looking for really cheap, usually help. But if you can be an intern who's quite cheap, but also very useful, they can give you a bit more money because it's basically the same work. They definitely pay less taxes for interns. So it's more valuable for them to get an intern with some experience to pay a bit more because they pay less taxes anyways. And you can actually negotiate pretty well for yourself. And that is something interesting because when I arrived at my internship with my nice salary, I started talking to my coworkers at like beer evenings, and they were like asking about these questions because everybody was curious how much everybody else is getting. And I found out that some are getting like an eighth of what I'm getting. Like really,
Eight times.
8 times less.
8 times less.
Yes. Because some have like very little experience to no experience at all, but still they negotiated nothing. Like when they were asked about the salary part, they were like, anything you can give me, I'm fine. So in the end, they were getting like 200 euros for a month.
Wow. Personally, I didn't have a salary as an internship. So I just worked out of my pocket.
I mean, it depends on the company, I'm sure. But
yeah, I had 2 internships, 3 months per each. And one of them gave nothing. I paid my lunch and everything. And it was a really small company, like 2 people working. Wow. And the other one was really, really big, actually. They were in this defense industry, one of the big ones in, like, they have money. the war equipment and everything. And I think they have like 3,000 engineers or maybe more.
Wow.
And they didn't give salary. So they just paid the transportation and lunch. That's all. And the lunch is actually, they had the restaurant inside. So they just do it by themselves. So
Damn. I mean, yeah, definitely depends on the company, but I think if there is some, like, they can find interns probably pretty easily if they need to, because it's cheap work, and they kind of sell it with the point that you need the experience to work anywhere else for money. But if you can have at least like a fraction of something that you can offer to them more, like, I'm better than the other intern because I have this kind of experience, or I can offer you that and that, you can negotiate it a bit, I think.
Yeah, it might work in Europe, but in Turkey, as Chetin said in the chat, it's
probably
internship is slavery, basically. I've seen really, really rare that they pay money. Maybe I don't even remember if I have an example, but sometimes they pay lunch. Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, like I said, there were people in that company who were getting 200 euros per month, like very, very little. And that company was actually running on interns mostly. It's like at factory, they were living off interns all year round. People were changing every semester.
Yeah, internship in Turkey is most likely you do it in the summer, so most of the time.
Like in between semesters. You see.
6 weeks, 8 weeks. I did 9 weeks, but the legal requirement was 6 weeks. And I said, okay, I want to learn. I will stay more.
Nice.
But it was a mistake also. Never mind. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Is anyone have like any more questions?
I see something about working culture habits.
Yeah, I missed that one. Sorry. What are some good and bad working culture habits in Germany? Let's talk.
Good question. I think there is an attitude kind of different from Ukraine, which is, I think in Ukraine, if there's like something failing, crashing or something, no matter the contract or the money, people will stay and try to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's very different, where people will be like, I'm not on call. I don't care. So unless there's like, people tend to take it strictly to the contract or to the rules, which is kind of the stereotype, but I've encountered this quite a bit. Like a very typical German person would come in at work at 8, leave at 5, and there will be on the minute. Yeah. Unless there's something like somebody asked for their help or distracted them or something, it will be on the minute.
I still suspect that if anybody distracts them, they will still leave at 5 because they are at work, you know.
Exactly. And I've noticed like some of these people, like some people are more relaxed because it's kind of, Berlin is a bit different from general Germany. But mostly they like to stay around and like chat with you because that's not what they're looking from work. And some people tend to really separate the work and the personal life and not like look for friends or anything like parties at their companies. It's more like international people tend to do that more.
Yes, today I have a good example for that one. We were talking about these live sessions in my team in the coffee session this morning, and one of my colleagues asked me like, "How do you know that many people?" Because I have already planned whole January the live sessions, and I told him that I have friends, and he said, "Interesting. I don't have any software engineer friends," and he was a software engineer, and I said, I am your friend. And he said, no, you're not my friend. You're my colleague. He's like, on my face. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
I said, okay, I saw you as a friend. I mean, at least be nice, you know?
Ooh, that was cold.
But I mean, no offense taken. I understand this point in general because we did nothing outside of work and that's okay. But still, I mean, I don't, like in my culture, I don't say this to people in any case.
Yeah, I mean, you can take the directness two ways. You can take it either offensive, because sometimes it can be, Or you can take it as a really nice thing, because if they don't like you, they will just tell you, and you don't need to invest any time in that relationship.
Yeah, that was the case. The guy said, "You are a nice people. I know. That's I like working with you, but you're not my friend. That's all." Like, separation is strict. That's
He said,
okay.
well, it's interesting. I think some people are like very strict and very direct towards work, and there's also people that are more relaxed. But in general, I think the Berlin culture, like working culture, is also very different from the German one. Because in Berlin, it's very international, so I think it's also very friendly. And at least what I've seen in Berlin mostly is people mostly make friends at work, actually.
Yeah, there are a lot of international people, and they have no other choice. That's the case.
Exactly.
It's not really like that in Hamburg, for example. Hamburg is still international, but not in the level of Berlin. And it is, yeah, like, for example, we have a lot of meetups in English. It's okay. But the socializing part is really tricky in Hamburg because German, if you don't speak German, it is not easy, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
In Berlin, it is very different.
Yeah, it's you don't have to speak German here. You can. I know people who lived here for 7, 8 years. Don't speak.
I know people live there 30 years and still don't speak German. They know English, or let's flip it around. They know Turkish. It's enough.
Well, that is true. Depending on the area in Berlin, that could be actually enough.
Yeah, I mean, I know Turkish and English. I don't need German in Berlin.
That is true. You can get a dinner. You can go to work. You're fine.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Do you have anything else to add, Oksana?
I think I'm good. I think we discussed most of the things I had in my mind.
Yeah, me too. Okay, then. How people can reach you via LinkedIn? I think we put down in the description.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think LinkedIn is enough. I don't have Twitter, anything like that. No
worries. It's okay.
And I didn't link my Facebook or Instagram because of the embarrassing pictures. So.
Okay, thank you for joining me here. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I also really enjoyed it. It was fun talk.
Thanks a lot. And thanks everyone for listening us, joining us, and see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.